Welcome to the Fresh Fit Podcast, man. It is Friday, and we got a very special guest in the house. Probably one of the most requested guests we've had in a very long time. We got Candace Owens in the house.
Yes.
Candace, welcome to the Fresh Fit Podcast. We're happy to have you.
Thank you, guys. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we know who you are. We support your work. But for those that live under a rock that might not know who you are, can you please introduce yourself to the people?
Candace Owens. I'm a podcaster, a public speaker. I'm repping CT hard, right? We're repping
Yes.
CT hard tonight,
Yes.
since nobody ever says that. Mother first, also a wife. And yeah, I just tell people what I think. For whatever reason, we live in a society where people are not allowed to just say what they think, and everyone's trying to, castigate thought. So people have probably seen me on the internet. I think I'm trending on Twitter right now.
You always are. For
Always
sure.
trending. For something.
So can you tell us a little bit about, you mentioned Connecticut earlier, but, people might not know your past. Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing, what family life was like, and how you became the woman that you are today?
Yeah, so I was born in New York, but then was raised in Connecticut. Been in Connecticut pretty much my whole life, like from kindergarten all the way up to graduating in Stanford. And I mean, life was pretty normal. My family didn't have a ton of money, so my grandfather, when I was 8 years old, came to the crappy little apartment that we were living in and was like, I don't want my grandbabies to grow up like this. And so I moved in at 8 with my granddad and my grandma. The whole family moved in. My mom and dad were in there too. And yeah, I think that was probably what shaped me a lot. I always say those were the formative years because, 8 years old and then through to high school with my grandparents, and my granddad was super conservative, not politically inclined. My family was not politically inclined, but just read the Bible every morning when he was making breakfast sort of a thing. And I obviously hated that when I was in public school, and I went the exact opposite way because, public school, atheism, it all is in lockstep. So I became a liberal, not politically inclined, just believed everything that was coming out of the school system. So, the racism, the sexism, all of the isms that you're pounded into your head every single day. And then, that's kind of my story. I have two sisters, one brother. So I come from a pretty, what would be considered a big family now, very close with my sisters and my brother. It's nothing too interesting in my childhood. I don't think so.
And I went to high school right around the same time that you did, and I can definitely attest to the public school system in, Connecticut was super woke, very liberal, you're a victim, the man is evil and all this other stuff. And it wasn't also, because I grew up fairly liberal myself, it wasn't until I graduated from college that I started to see what the hell, this is BS. It's being conservative is not as bad as they try to paint it as.
Right.
When did you kind of for me, it was after I graduated from college that I noticed this.
Exact
but for
same.
you, when was it?
Exact same. I think once you're in the real world, you realize that a loser mentality will yield loser results. And if you're a person that's hungry and you want to be successful, it's not going to serve you to go around thinking that the world is out to get you, right? You want to be a part of the world. You want to be the purveyor of your own destiny. And so it just didn't work for me. I wanted to be successful. I didn't consider myself to be a victim. But my big aha moment was definitely, because I wasn't paying attention to politics, but was when Trump came down the escalator. I hadn't even voted, I was that much abstained from politics. But then because I grew up listening to hip hop, watching them go from everybody loves Trump, hip hop world, everybody, he's this icon of status, and Jay-Z and Beyonce are sipping poolside at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, if you're listening to music, it's Trump's fine. And then just like that, at a drop of a hat, they were no, actually he's racist. He's wants to own slaves. I was like, what? He definitely hates all black people. He wants you back in chains. I was like, The narrative flip was too aggressive for me not to kind of pop up and be like, what's actually behind this? And then I made a couple of YouTube videos talking about that, and they went viral, and people were essentially calling me a coon, Uncle Tom, just for daring to think outside of the matrix. And I'm very stubborn. So if you're going to tell me that I can't be myself, that's my number one thing. I listened to way too much Kanye music growing up. So as soon as you're going to tell me that I can't be myself, I'm going to be the biggest myself that you've ever seen. I'm going to make you hate how much of myself I am. And I think I've done a very good job of doing just that. There are a lot of people that hate me for daring to be myself,
Oh, yeah. You've definitely done some things that take a lot of courage. I'm going to talk about that here in a second. But you started also something called Blexit. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because, again, coming from Connecticut, it's a blue state, right? And everyone that's colored there, minority, they vote Democrat. They say fuck the rich people. because people think that, all of Connecticut is rich. No, that's concentrated in just a few towns on the shore, guys. Connecticut, actually, if you look at most people that are blue-collar workers, are not as rich as you think they are. You're thinking of Greenwich, Clinton, these towns right on the, on the water. What kind of stimulated you to create Blexit, and what was the ideology behind it?
So I think what happened was I started falling down the rabbit hole, and what I mean is, at first I would have never gone to like foxnews.com. Like, that was like the worst possible thing you could do as a black person. And then when I saw them lying about something, I watched a Trump speech live. It was in Dimondale, Michigan, where he made his pitch to Black America. And he just started listing statistics and was like, you've given your vote for 60 years to Democrats. Why not just do something else? And I was like, that's not a bad pitch. Like, I'm not for this dude, but like, fair. And then I watched the media that I trusted interpret what he was saying, and they were like, he looked Black Americans in the face, Don Lemon, close to tears, the whole bit, and told them they have nothing and they're poor, and we haven't heard this sort of racist rhetoric since. And I was like, whoa. It really made me go, okay, what's actually up? And so I have to be honest, because I make it sound like it's so easy, but when you wake up one day and you realize that everything that you thought, that you have been propagandized in the school system, you've been told that this is true forever, that you're justified in every feeling that you ever had, and one day you realize that the exact opposite is true, because that's pretty much how it happened. I basically just went flip. You do go through a period of cognitive dissonance. Like, you actually start to wonder if you're crazy. Right? Like, oh my, how could this possibly, like, what do you mean the Democrats aren't here to rescue? What do you mean those racist Republicans could actually be trying to help? Like, that's a lot to go through emotionally. And it's going to immediately impact your relationships, right? Because you're coming from, all your friendships have this viewpoint, your family members have this viewpoint. So to go through this period of cognitive dissonance, you have to first think you're crazy. Then I just wanted to read, and I picked up the coons. Like, I was like, well, those people that I thought were coons, what were they saying, right? And I started reading Thomas Sowell, and he was a good first
Great
step.
Work
He was a good first step in terms of educating myself, because he's not overtly political, and he just made the economic arguments. And I read this book, and I was like, wait, I think I've been a conservative my whole life. I just didn't know it. I agree with everything that he's saying. This is what makes sense. I just want opportunity. I want to be able to climb a ladder. And so I went through a year and a half of just reading to make sure that I understood what I felt was true. And then I was angry, right? Because then I realized how sinister, how evil, how manipulative, how Machiavellian. I mean, really, the public school system for Black Americans is just a pipeline to the prison system. And I was like, I am going to now be the loudest voice against this. And I understood, obviously, the bullets and the arrows that I was going to have to take, but it motivated me to action. And I just was like, I'm going to start my own YouTube channel, and I'm going to start saying stuff that people need to hear for the first time.
I can see that you take things into a different perspective. You just answer the question, why? Why is this happening? What's going on in the background? Let me ask you this, though. What about free speech? Is there really free speech nowadays? What do you think?
No, I mean, obviously not. It's even speech. The consequences that people suffer. So they've kind of gotten around speech. And if they don't like what you're saying, or if they want to control or manipulate what you're saying, they will smear you and libel you. And so people then will not say something, even if they know it's true, or even if it's how they actually feel, because there is this consequence of, organizations like the ADL that exist. Literally, they're not anti-defamation. They are doing the defamation, right? But we're going to call ourselves anti-defamation, but we're actually the ones that are defaming. Facts. And by the way, everybody, if you want to get educated on the history of the ADL, they literally existed as an arm of a gang, right? Like, to start calling people anti-Semites when they started looking into gang activities in New York. So they can miss
protect someone that assaulted a child.
Yeah,
exactly. That's why it was originally created.
Absolutely. And you can miss me entirely. And they're still trying to blame it on a black man. Unbelievably wealthy man who raped, sexually assaulted and killed a 13-year-old. And they're still trying to blame it on a black man, as if Atlanta, Georgia would have not gladly hung a black man for the crime if he had done it. But so now you have these sorts of organizations that are doing this kind of bullying tactic, which is why I was dragging someone on Twitter for the last 24 hours who's been trying to thug life, like threaten me into speech, like, to compel me to say things I don't believe, or to shut up if I do believe them. And so, no, we
know
don't.
He is. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, he's a horrible human being, horrible backwards human being, definitively racist. There's no question about it. But yeah, so it's speech with consequences, and they go, oh, you still have free speech, but we're going to run this whole arm of people that are going to assassinate your character if you don't say the right things. And I'm not with that at all.
said.
You mentioned something, and I didn't want to stop you when you were speaking. You said that the public school system
Pipeline to prison.
pipelines black children to prison.
Mm-hmm.
What component of the public school system do you think is the most damaging that leads to that?
So this is really important, and I'm glad you asked me this question. So currently, right now in America, 40% of students can't pass a basic literacy exam. Within inner city communities, that's 70%.
That's true, because the CAPT exam, I don't know if did you take that when you were in Connecticut?
Oh, yes, I did.
Yeah. Half my class failed it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
they can't pass a basic literacy exam.
Yeah.
So they created the public education system for that very reason, to slowly dumb people down, right? And the reason why you want to dumb people down, the reason why you want to reverse education, it's actually the Department of Non-Education, is because educated minds can be enslaved. It's the reason why we had slave codes. It's the reason why they were not allowed legally to teach black people how to read when they were slaves, right? And that was such a severe law that if you were a white person in America and you were caught teaching a slave how to read, they punished you too, right? And so the design of how to enslave people, how it works, how you can do that, has already existed. Now they're just modernizing it, right? And so they're giving you a fake education. Actually, what they're doing is they're emotionally engineering you, which is why we talk about like, oh, believing in you're a victim, all this stuff. Because then whenever they want to press a button and get you to go after somebody, white man, rich man, you'll do it. Because you're not educated about why you're in that circumstance. You don't understand how economics works, right?
Divisive.
Yeah, you don't understand how economics works. All you understand is you have no money and he has money, right? And so when they say, oh, go out and do our bidding and scream, you don't even know who is controlling your plantation. You don't even understand who the plantation supervisor is. You're just warring. You're a bunch of slaves that are warring. And the other reason is to slowly erase history. It is stunning to me how little we know about history, how little Americans know, how little Christians know about their history. I mean, once you become awake to everything, you realize that actually what's happening is just holy wars. Holy wars. Everything actually really does trace right back to religion, and the battle for earth. But that is another reason, is because then they can edit history or no history. You're living in ever present. You know, you're just in an ever present. You have no idea what's happened and how you got here. Black Americans thinking LBJ is a hero, vowedly racist man. Well, they own the textbooks. You know, he who can print the textbooks is king. Right? This is what happened to you. This is what happened during World War I. This is what happened during World War II. This is the bad guy. This is the good guy. This is all you need to remember. LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act. That is true.
Lyndon B. Johnson, right?
Yeah. But also completely out of context.
Yeah.
He, the decades in the Senate, voted against every single measure that would have given blacks any freedom. He was an avowed racist. He said, I will have those N words, hard R, voting Democrat for the next 200 years. He signed the Great Society Act along with it to enslave black Americans to the Democrat plantation. And he was forced to sign the Civil Rights Act because of the America was just on fire. You know, JFK had just died. There was riots. There was protesting. Too much was happening. And they were like, this you have to get done. He did it begrudgingly. But they don't tell you any of that. They just say, he signed it, right?
Not to mention he forced a bunch of military people on the USS Liberty to sign a non-disclosure, not talk about them being attacked by a certain place.
He also, I just learned this actually over the PBD podcast, intentionally drafted black men to Vietnam. And so he just was so racist, and yet black Americans think, yay, that's when we got our freedom. Nope, that's actually when we were enslaved, re-enslaved.
He wanted Kennedy dead. They never got along either.
Yeah.
He didn't like Robert F. Kennedy either.
Wow.
See, and this is the thing, like, no one talks about this stuff in history books whatsoever. No one knows
Not
this
in
stuff.
school, at least.
But hell no. They would never tell you this about Lyndon B. Johnson, but they...
We just don't know who shot JFK.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, man.
Candace knows what's up, man.
Candace knows what's the buzz, man.
JFK was like, I'm going to shatter the CIA and throw him into the wind, and then he ends up dead, and you're like, I don't know. The CIA just doesn't know who did it. I don't know.
Damn, they fucking know.
They know.
You know, Alan Dulles, the original CIA director, didn't like Kennedy. Kennedy had a lot of enemies.
Yeah, we need a Rumble-only episode with Candace. Go really deep into this, man. You can't say it on YouTube, but
man.
So it's funny.
I say it on my show, and I'm on YouTube. I mean, I just don't care. I mean, these people are criminals. It's a criminal enterprise that's running the country, and they're using tactics of blackmail. Everyone can see it now. I mean, the Diddy lawsuit, the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, it's all the same. This is how they've been able to control people. Did you guys read through that Diddy lawsuit?
Yeah. I want to get your thoughts. I know we've been looking at it. I know you've been doing a deep dive.
Everyone's Diddy from all fronts, literally.
Yeah,
like
it's crazy. What's your thoughts?
What are your thoughts? I mean, if the person, like, listen, anybody can file a lawsuit and it can be frivolous. With the pictures, the photos, the thing that he showed saying I was in next door in the bathroom, and he's allegedly, protect me, YouTube, you know, that he, Diddy and his son shot someone. And then like, this is the guy that you called to clean it up. And then he like had the photos of, obviously the shooting took place inside. And then he says, this guy comes, he gets the LAPD to come and write a fake report. And the LAPD said that the person was shot outside in a drive-by. And then he showed how the news reported on it and said, oh, drive-by shooting at a recording studio. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like absolutely crazy. And I mean, then you realize that that person that you're supposed to call was the same person that was there, one of the only people there when Michael Jackson died. Like, scary stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Scary stuff, you know? And it rings exactly like the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, where you understand that they're getting, this person is alleging that you drug people, you know, you get invited to these parties and you invite underage girls that you know are underage, you invite guys, you groom them for homosexuality.
Freak offs.
And then, freak offs, as he called them, and then get them on camera doing this stuff, and then you own the person. And I'm like, that makes sense to me. It really does make sense to me because...
Compromise and control.
Yes. Because I'm like, what on earth is even being sold to Black America right now? This isn't even our music. And like, who's controlling that? Like, who's making them produce this kind of filth and putting it out there? So it's interesting. It's definitely something worth following.
I always wondered, though, like, what would be... I guess maybe to control them from a musical standpoint, hey, I own the masters, I own whatever it may be. Because, I mean, we know why Epstein did it, right? Epstein did it. We know he was Mossad. It is what it is, right? He was intel for a certain nation. But with Diddy, it's like, all right, you already got Bad Boy. You're already making a bunch of money. You've been doing this for a very long time. Is there really a need to be doing this? But I guess at that point, it's like, oh, I get all the girls I want. I have all the money that I want. Let me just explore new things.
Well, don't forget, the documents also said, like, heavily implied that he was having a relationship with the CEO of Universal, Lucian Grange.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's pretty scary stuff. That's all I'm saying. So
His partner, Clive Davis.
They weren't saying that like Diddy was at the top.
Yep.
He was saying that all of the execs were in on it and were sanctioning Diddy to do this. Like Diddy's kind of
middleman.
Yeah, he's the middleman,
Yep.
so to speak.
He's
if
the
those
token
documents
black.
are true,
Wink, wink.
Yep.
Exactly.
Clive Davis was involved as well.
And now
Yeah.
we're unearthing everything. Now it's like, okay, let's revisit what Michael Jackson was saying. Let's revisit what a bunch of people in the industry have been coming out saying, that there's like some sort of a ring that's happening. But every time those people speak out, you're wacko Jacko, you're you know, crazy Kanye, you're this. It's the full
Kanye talked about
effort
this a while
smear
ago.
thing.
He mentioned it.
He did. And the thing that was crazy at that time was that Kanye showed a text that he had received from that Harley Pasternak, right? The media didn't even report on this. That Harley Pasternak like wrote to him, if you don't do this, I'll put you back into like a psych ward, drug you up, and take your kids.
Yeah.
Media didn't even care about that, you know? So it's now everybody's kind of revisiting the things that have been said by a lot of artists and wondering what's really happening in Hollywood. It's very scary.
I believe Meek Mill, man. I think he's innocent. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But.
Speaking of Kanye, you and Kanye are good friends. You guys went viral with the White Lives Matter shirts, which, you know,